The Heartache of a Mother with Her Martyred Son, a short story based on true events by Vahid Sajadafar.
Hello, my dear, I'm sitting here by your grave, just like that day I kissed you, and sent you off to war. My heart is heavy with sorrow, my dear son. It's still unbelievable to me that I can no longer hear the sound of your laughter, or feel your gentle hands in mine. My son, you always said that we must defend our homeland, that it's our duty. But I never thought this duty would cost the life of my only son. You are my hero, the hero of us all. But at what cost? Why should innocent youths like you, who were just beginning their lives, be burned in the fires of war? Every time I looked into your eyes, I saw hope and dreams of the future. But those sitting in their fancy offices, planning wars and thinking about how they can profit from this chaos, these wicked people never see the tears of grieving mothers. They only think about their profit and power, not about the lives destroyed with every bullet. Curse these wars, curse those who, in the darkness of their decision-making rooms, send our youths to the slaughterhouse. They don't know that every soldier who dies takes a world with them to the grave. Every mother who loses her son can never be the same person again. My son, whenever I think of you, my heart swells with pride and yet sorrow. I want you to know that we will never forget your sacrifice, and the sacrifices of other youths of this land. We pray for you and all the other youths, who lost their lives in this merciless war, and we ask God to establish justice. Perhaps a day will come, when the vile individuals who bathe in the blood of martyrs and today's youths will face retribution. But my dear, I've seen many of those vile ones live happily and wealthy until the end of their days, without facing any consequences. Perhaps there is another world where they will face consequences, otherwise, justice is nothing but a meaningless word. I hope those who plan wars will one day understand that nothing is more valuable than human life. Perhaps on that day, the world will become a better place, and no mother will have to sit beside her son's grave and weep. My dear son, I still remember when you were young, you always asked me why people fight with each other. Why can't they live together peacefully? I always came up with excuses to distract your mind from such questions. Now I understand that I didn't have the answers myself. Curse those who base their policies on bloodshed and death. Curse the power-hungry and the greed that sacrifices thousands of people like you. What do they know of the pain that I and thousands of other mothers endure every day and every moment? My son, I still remember when you wanted to go to war, how proudly you put on your uniform and said, "Mother, I will come back. I promise." I swallowed my tears and tried to smile. I didn't want you to see the fear in my eyes. But that day, we knew that this could be a one-way trip. Maybe it was just me who couldn't accept it. Now that I'm sitting here talking to you, I want you to know that I'm never upset with you. You did what you thought was right. But I'm filled with anger and hatred towards those who led you to this path, those who expelled you from your world. I wish I could somehow avenge you, and the other innocent youths. But my son, amidst all this, I've learned that hatred and resentment don't alleviate the pain. The only thing that can soothe these wounds is love. Love for you, love for life, and love for those who are still here, and need to have decent lives. I promise to remember you every day, to pray for your pure soul, and to try to create a better world for others. Perhaps this is the only way I can overcome this great pain. My dear son, I'm sitting here by your grave, and memories of you play like a film before my eyes. I remember how when you spoke of your love, your eyes sparkled with enthusiasm and hope. In those days, you fought not only for the homeland but also for your love. I will never forget her name, Leela. The girl who captured your heart, the one you talked to before sleep and shared your dreams and future. I remember how you laughed together and talked about the happy days ahead. Leela was an exceptional girl, full of love and hope. When you decided to go and defend the homeland, Leela was by your side with all her heart. With hidden tears and smiles that were only for you, she saw you off. She didn't want to worry you, didn't want to burden you with sorrow. But you knew that just like me, she had 1,001 fears in her heart. When the news of your martyrdom reached her, Lila's world also came to an end. No longer could her laughter be heard, nor could the sparkle of enthusiasm be seen in her eyes. Lila turned into a shadow of herself, into a girl drowning in sorrow and grief. Her days and nights merged into one, and everywhere she searched for you, as if she still hoped for your return one day. After your martyrdom, Lila was no longer the same person. Every time I looked at her, my heart broke from seeing her deep sorrow. One day she came to me, took my hand, and with endless tears said, "Mother, I can't live without him anymore." I heard the sound of her breaking that day. Days passed, and Lila sank deeper and deeper into sorrow and loneliness. One day they told me she couldn't cope anymore, couldn't tolerate this cruel world. It was as if her soul had gone with you, and only her body remained here. Her heart couldn't bear it anymore. Her love for you was so strong that without you, life became meaningless for her. In the end, she too resorted to suicide and put an end to her life. My dear son, whenever I think of you and Lila, my heart fills with pain and sorrow. Lila wasn't just your love. She was a lovely girl whom her family also honored and cherished. But after losing you and the tragedy of Lila, their lives changed. Lila was the only child of her family, the hope and support of her parents. Her father was a kind and hard-working man, who had worked all his life to raise Lila in the best possible way. Her mother was a strong and determined woman, who always stood behind Lila and supported her in every situation. But after losing Lila, everything changed for them too. When Lila got depressed, her family suffered every day and night with her pain and suffering. They saw their beloved daughter, who until yesterday was full of life and hope, now only a shadow of herself. I saw the tears of Lila's mother day and night, not knowing how to help her daughter. Her father was no longer the same person. The spark of hope and happiness was no longer in his eyes. After Lila ended her life, her family was completely shattered. Nothing was the same for them anymore. Lila's mother became weaker day by day and finally couldn't bear it and passed away. Her father, who had lost everything, continued to live alone and aimlessly, with memories of Lila and a grief that never left him. Mehdi, Lila's older brother, was her supporter and best friend. Whenever Lila had a problem or needed advice, she would first go to Mehdi. Mehdi also helped her with love and patience. But after Lila, Mehdi was no longer the same person. He was no longer that solid brother who always took care of his sister. Depression and despair took hold of Mehdi, and he spiraled into an endless pit. He withdrew more and more from everyone. Mehdi constantly twisted in himself and drowned in the thoughts of Lila. One day, when he no longer had the strength to fight this pain and suffering, he tried to end his own life. Fortunately, his friends arrived in time and saved him, but his mental state was so severe that he needed to be hospitalized in a psychiatric ward. They took Mehdi to the hospital, and he was bedridden there for long days. Treatments and medical care could hardly help him get through this crisis. Every time I visited him, my heart broke to see his condition. His eyes were empty of life, as if his soul had gone with Lila, and only a lifeless body remained of him. Doctors and psychologists said that Mehdi might be able to return to normal life. But every time they brought him home, memories of Lila and the grief of losing her shattered everything again. It was as if every corner of the house reminded Mehdi of his sister. Every smile and every moment they spent there turned into endless pain. My son, when I think of all this, my heart becomes heavy with grief. This cursed war not only took your life, but also destroyed many lives. My son, when I think of all this suffering, I am filled with anger and hatred. How can war and hatred destroy innocent lives to this extent? Curse war and those who inflict so much pain and suffering on people. Curse the wicked politicians and power-hungry individuals who cause innocent families to be destroyed like this. But I know I must try to overcome this pain, and remember you, Lila, Mehdi, and everyone lost in this cursed war, and strive to create a better world. A world that you all wished for, a world where no mother loses her child, no girl sees her loved one killed in war, no brother witnesses his sister's sorrow, and no family is torn apart. Until that day, I live with your memories, and strive for your dreams. I hope your souls are at peace, knowing that we will never forget you. My son, I know you are in a better place now, where there is no war or hatred, where you and Leela can be together and continue your love forever. Here, I and everyone who loved you live with your memory, hoping for the day we can see each other again. May your soul be happy and remembered, my son. We try to make this world a better place, for the young of the new generation, if we can defeat the wicked people, who shed the blood of innocent. We do our best to cut their hands from our country and future world. Know that you will always remain in our hearts with endless love and longing.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.